Keepers never strikers, they'll deliver crowd.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Gromada Football channel. So in today's video, we have lots to talk about and we'll just go straight into it. First off, we start off with Chelsea. Chelsea, got a win against Spurs to see them, move into fourth spot ahead of Man City. I think they're just a point or so ahead of Manchester City. So good on them. And I think Enzo Maresca is either he's beginning to learn or someone else has called him into the principal's office to say, if you don't make Champions League, you will be gone. Because at some point, one goal ahead, the game was coming towards the end, and then decides we'll go with 5 at the back, and have 4 in midfield, make it very tight, very compact, maybe very difficult for Spurs, to get any chance to break through. So fair dues to Enzo Maresca. I dubbed him Jose Maresca because that's something that the special one, Jose Mourinho, would have done if he was in that position. So fair dues for him, Chelsea fans. What do you think about Enzo Maresca's tactics? What do you think about Chelsea going forward? Do you think Chelsea will be able to secure Champions League football? For me, I think it is imperative. It is very important for Chelsea to secure Champions League football this season because you don't want to be out of the Champions League for 3 years running. Because there are lots of things that come with it, apart from the fact that you want to compete at the highest level, with your peers, with the sort of clubs you see yourself in the same sort of bracket with, like your Real Madrids, your Barcelonas, your Bayern Munichs. Those are the clubs that I think Chelsea fans, the Chelsea board and ownership would, have Chelsea placed in. And so you don't want to miss out on competing at that level. Then secondly, of course, you have the financial draw, the financial benefit, the commercial rewards, not just the rewards that come from TV rights, tickets. You also have sponsorship money, and then the clout that comes with it as well. You're able to convince a lot of convince players, to join you a lot easier than if you're out of the Champions League or if you're out of Europe completely. So it is very, very imperative, very, very important for Chelsea at this stage of their progression. And sort of progression of their project, if I put it that way. And then, talking about Chelsea going to Champions League, talking about Chelsea being able to attract, top level talent, due to the fact that they'll be in the Champions League, that if everything finishes up the way it is at the minute. And so one of those top players that you will be thinking that Chelsea could and should be going for would be my favorite striker right now, Victor James Osimhen. He's been on fine form. He's been on excellent form, for Galatasaray and for Nigeria as well. He scored again in their victory in Galatasaray's victory over Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce 1-1, and he scored both goals. One was from the spot, but they all count the same in my opinion. Every goal ranks equal in my opinion. So he's been on tremendous form, scoring lots of goals, and he's been mentioned to be one of the names, on Chelsea's radar. For me, I think he's what Chelsea needs right now at this minute. Someone who absolutely will score you goals. Last season when Chelsea was linked to him, rather last transfer window when Chelsea was linked to Victor Osimhen, you had a lot of people coming up with some weird takes. Some said, oh, he was too greedy because he was asking for, the same salary he was earning at Napoli, which was just weird to me because usually strikers or players in general, either to move to another club, what they look for is to have their salary at the very least, double. But he was asking for just what he was earning at the minute at that time with Napoli. And then some people tried to put him in a tiny box to say he's just a box striker. The only thing he knows how to do is to head the ball. And strangely, you had some Nigerians in that mix, which was weird to me, because you want Victor Osimhen, lead the line for Nigeria into Nations Cup qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers, lead Nigeria into AFCON finals, and then you don't rate him. He brings a lot more than his heading ability. He's got pace, he's got strength, he's got power, he's got the ability to bring people into play, and he's a little finisher with either foot, and his movement in the box is impervious, in my opinion. Victor Osimhen is a world-class striker, and any club that would get him, would be, would have a special player on their books. I would hope it would be Chelsea from a Chelsea perspective, but if the board wants to joke around again, some other club will get him, and they will be signing a top player. In my opinion, and as Nigerian football fans, we know this, that if Nigeria is to qualify for the World Cup, Victor Osimhen has to be on top of his game, and he has been, leading the line, leading the team with his goals, with his effort, with his, aggression on the ball, with his pressing. He has been phenomenal for Nigeria. It's just that other people haven't sort of carried their own weight, but he's been superb for Nigeria in this World Cup qualifiers, and he's been scoring tons of goals for Galatasaray, and he has 33 goal contributions so far in all competitions. So you can imagine by the time the season ends, he probably would have hit maybe 40 goal contributions come the end of this season. So fantastic display by Victor Osimhen, and you have the likes of Obafemi Martins praising him and calling him a goal machine, and I agree. Obafemi Martins in his time was a machine, and it takes one to know one, I think. But I agree with him. Victor Osimhen has been an absolute machine for Galatasaray, for the Super Eagles of Nigeria as well. And then let's also talk about this four-nation tournament. The rivalry between Nigeria and Ghana, has been there since time, I think ever since I was born. I woke up into that rivalry. I was born into that rivalry. I'm sure Ghanaians as well, they're tied into that rivalry. Some, Africans as well don't even quite understand what the rivalry is between Nigeria and Ghana. Why not Nigeria and Togo? Because I think why not Nigeria and Benin? Because I think Nigeria is even closer to Benin than Ghana. But we don't get it. The rivalry is intense nonetheless. Each time the countries play, you have that intensity. Each time, if it's in the music as well, music sphere, you see a Nigerian artist doing well. You see Ghanaian fans who may love the music, but all over social media would have something to say if Nigeria is playing against an European country. Ghanaian fans have something to say, and vice versa. So this is four-nation tournament, Unity Cup. I talked about it earlier on, and I'll continue to bring more details about it as I continue to get them, and we have this news. The various reports continue to make the rounds. So initially, the reports made everyone believe that it would be England, Ghana, Nigeria, and Jamaica. But now the way things are all set up right now is it seems we're going to have Ghana, we're going to have Nigeria, we're going to have Trinidad and Tobago, we're going to have Jamaica, and I mean, that's all good. That's all nice. It's good to play in London. Some people say, "Oh, why do you want to play in London?" And the thing is, most of these teams, or rather, all these four teams, I think most of their players play in Europe, anyways. So I think it's more about logistics than anything else. So you come together, you have the games played, and then when it's all done, you can then rejoin. The national teams can then all travel back to Africa to play various World Cup qualifying fixtures. So for me, there's something I want to talk about with respect to this tournament. The way the fixtures have been drawn up, I must admit, is not set in stone right now. It's not fully official, but the reports that we've seen is that it will be Nigeria, Ghana, and Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago. For me, I don't really like that sort of setup. And the way it is if Ghana plays against Nigeria, Nigeria beats Ghana, Ghana is out. If Jamaica beats Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago is out. And then you just have the next game would then be Nigeria taking on Jamaica. So for me, I would have preferred a situation where Nigeria would have played maybe a Jamaica, for instance, and Ghana would have played a Trinidad and Tobago. Then you've got, then Nigeria would then play, let's say, Ghana. So you have at least 3 games, because you've called it a Unity Cup. So you'd have had 3 games per team or something in that nature. But that's how you have it. That's how the organizers are choosing to go about it. So, but I want to ask you, what do you think about this tournament going forward? What do you think about these sort of friendly matches? Is something you want to see, or you just want the teams to just get straight to having indoor training, preparing themselves, get themselves focused in on playing their various World Cup qualifying games. And so, what are your thoughts and opinions on that one? For me, I don't mind it. It would have felt a lot better to me if Nigeria had were more or less qualified for the World Cup. But right now, I think the World Cup is the main thing to focus on. But I think these games can be used as something to sort of sharpen and hone the skills of the players, tactics, tactical setup, and maybe give um, debuts to some players. And speaking about debuts, now there's a report that came from nowhere that puts I can quite understand what they're saying, trying to say that Ethan Nwaneri and that ERic Chelle, I said Ethan Nwaneri, it would be difficult to convince him to play for Nigeria. And when you read the reports, I read out this report. It doesn't quite say that. It doesn't quite say that. It sort of confuses itself or sort of contradicts itself. So I'll just read this and I'll give my opinion about it. So yeah, so I think this is from All Nigerian Soccer. So this is what it says. So Super Eagles coach ERic Chelle has admitted that it wouldn't be easy to persuade Arsenal wonderkid Ethan Nwaneri to switch his international allegiance from England to Nigeria. Born in North London, the Hill End Academy graduate qualifies to play for the Super Eagles through his Nigerian father, Obi Nwaneri. And it says All Nigerian Soccer.com broke the news 52 days ago that Ethan Nwaneri has not ruled out playing for Nigeria for the Super Eagles, but has yet to receive a formal approach from Nigeria Football Federation or its representative regarding a switch from England to the three-time African champions. Now, so you can see now they said, there hasn't been any formal contact. So for me, how then is it difficult? You must have that formal contact. Like I always say, even if it's a player that has just a mono nationality, that has Nigerian nationality only, you still have to invite the player. The player won't invite himself. You still have to take the steps, take the necessary efforts to invite the player. Same thing, and even more so when you're talking about a dual national. You have to be intentional. You have to be clear about what you want to do. You have to be clear about your project. You have to be clear about how you see that player fitting into your team, fitting into your setup. One thing we must understand is as Nigerians, as fans, as football fans, not even just Nigerians, when there's a player who is eligible to play for your country, you just expect that, come on, you should love this country, come on and play. Come on and play for the country. But what you have to understand as well is this is a career for these players, and each choice they make is very, very important. So you have to take that into consideration. And I've said this before, when a player just has one nationality, or rather is eligible to play for one country, then it's easy. His fate is sealed. He has no choice. If he's invited to play for that country, that's where he plays for. He has no choice, except he chooses not to play international football. But when that player, is eligible to play for multiple countries, maybe 2 or 3 countries, then that player then has a choice. And you, as a country, that you need the skills of that player, you need the ability of that player, you see how that player can fit into your setup, then you should be able to say, okay, I'll speak to this player and this is what I want, and convince the player to say, this is what I want you to do, this is what I expect from you, this is how I see you fitting into the team, this is what I think you can bring to the team, and this is what you will stand to gain, putting your name in the Nigerian history and folklore forever, probably help Nigeria become the first country to win the World Cup, something like that. And one thing I must tell people is this, that this dual nationality issue isn't just for African countries who are looking at players that play for that have dual nationality to play for an European team and an African team. No, it's all over the world. You have an Ireland looking at players that need to play for England and need to play for them as well, looking to convince them. You have the German national team looking at players who are eligible to play for Poland and to play for Germany as well. So it's something that you must do, because countries all over the world are looking to get players that are eligible to play for them to give them the opportunity to win. And then I looked at Sierra Leone under 20, Sierra Leone under 20 team as well. Look how stacked this is right now because they are building as well. Because usually what used to happen was those countries you call less fancied African countries, they used to ignore the talents they had. They were waiting for the ones that were just, maybe born in Freetown. They were ignoring the talent they had all over the world. But now the dynamic has changed. You're seeing national teams, you're seeing countries being more intentional about getting players eligible to play for them to join their national team. And when you look at what this sort of news article has said, it hasn't said anything new, in my opinion. So for me, it's like if the NFF has not made any formal contact with the player, then how can you say the coach says it's difficult? You must make the contact with the player. So for me, that's really a non-starter. You must be intentional. You must make moves. You must make that contact with the player. The player cannot invite himself. The player cannot, bring himself to the national team. You must be intentional about getting that player, to play for you. And then there's one. Now, talking about one nationality as well. Now, usually it used to be Nigeria losing out players to England, losing out players to Germany, losing out players to even Poland, like Maxi or Oyedele, was a Manchester United, academy product. Now he's gone on to play for Poland. I think he's had his first senior cap for Poland, and they're trying to make him, a mainstay in their team. So, but now Nigeria is also losing players to Uganda, to other African countries. Yes, I said it, Uganda. So it's a promising midfielder chooses Uganda over former world champions Nigeria. That is under 17 world champions, because obviously Nigeria hasn't won the World Cup. So I'll just read this now. It's a promising Bradfield College midfielder Ethan Oyedele is in line to become provisionally captain to Uganda at the 2025 Africa Under 17 Cup of Nations. Oyedele has been included in Uganda's Cubs final squad for the ongoing tournament in Morocco, the world's most successful team in FIFA Under 17 World Cup history, with 5 titles to their name. Golden Eagles did not qualify for the Under 17 AFCON after finishing third at last year's WAFU B Under 17 Championship in Ghana. So you see, it's not a team of the players arrogant. It's not a team of this country developed this player. If you're not intentional about these players, then you stand the chance. There's a possibility that you lose out on getting getting them to commit to playing for you. But for me, I'm not too worried about Ethan Oyedele. With due respect to him, I've not really heard that much about him. He may be a very, very exciting talent, but let's see what he does for Uganda, for the Ugandan side. But this is back to the point that I'm making. It's not just a thing about Nigeria, it's a thing about countries all over the world. And then if you're not intentional, that's what I want to point out. If you're not intentional, if you're not serious about getting players to play for you, you could lose them. Because normally in the world of football, Nigeria, Uganda, it shouldn't even be a contest. But Nigeria hasn't shown, I think, have not shown enough intention about getting this Oyedele kid to play for Nigeria. And in addition to the fact that Nigeria did not qualify, for the Under 17 AFCON, finishing third in that WAFU B U17 tournament, finishing third. So they missed out slightly by an aspect, if you say that. So the same thing applies. If a player is eligible to play for England and Nigeria shows more intention, more desire to get that player to play for the country, you stand a chance of convincing that player. That's just about the matter, because people like to say this, if someone has the chance of playing for England, why should he play for Nigeria? That is silly talk. So the same thing could apply or should have applied here. If someone has the opportunity to play for Nigeria and Uganda, why would you opt for Uganda? So you see, you have to be intentional about these players. That's the truth about the matter. So, and then talking about young talents, there's Daniel Daga. Looking about Daniel Daga, in some previous videos, you should go check it out as well. When he signed for FK Molde, he used to play for Eyimba, and then he signed a short-term contract with the Moldovan club, I think, and then was loaned back to Eyimba. Eventually, right now, he's with Molde, the Norwegian club. So, ever since he made his debut, his stock has risen, and that's it. You continue to play good, put yourself in the shop window, continue to perform well, not just signing for an European club, but when you do sign for that European club, you showcase your ability, you show yourself on the pitch, and his stock has really risen. That's to tell you the sort of player he is, that's to tell you the sort of talent he has. So according to the reports, so I'll just read out. Yes, in Nigerian under-20 international, Daniel Daga has seen his stock rise after making his debut in European competition in February. The transfer market has updated the market value of players in the league, the top division of Norwegian football, with the defensive midfielder now rated at 400,000 euros, approximately 679 million naira. Daga made his Molde and European debut on February 20, 2025. So for me, I always rate Daniel Daga. This is good news for him to see his stock rise, to see that his profile is increasing, is improving. For me, I've rated him. I say he is a top player. He's a top talent, rather, a top talent. And I want to see how he develops at Molde. And when I say this, people think that when you say integrate a player into Nigerian football ecosystem, you're saying that player must play for the Super Eagles immediately. No, it just means that you have that player is part of the Nigerian football setup. You know what's happening with him. When you have under 20 tournaments, you have him involved, you invite him to be in those tournaments. So you continually know what's going on with the player. So that's what I mean. So it's nice to see that a talented player such as himself hasn't disappeared in Europe, because we've seen a lot of Nigerian talents that, under 17, they were so good, and then they signed for a club and no one knows what happened to them. Like, I don't know how many of you would remember Macaulay Chrysanthus. Macaulay Chrysanthus, before Osimhen, he was Osimhen. He was scoring tons and tons of goals in the under 17 tournament. Then he signed for Hamburg SV, the Hamburger SV, and that was it. No one heard about him anymore. His career continued to plummet. So there are a couple of reasons that I feel, I had a couple of theories that I feel led to, that resulted in his sort of, I'll say, lack of growth, lack of progress in Europe. So it's always nice to see, Nigerian top talents, when they leave the Nigerian league or leave the grassroots tournaments and move to Europe, they actually continue to shine there, and their careers, continue to progress. So Daniel Daga, I probably will be doing a reaction video on him, because I think he is a top talent, and if I'm honest, that midfield is stacked under 20 players who are 22 and below, in that Nigerian midfield is absolutely stacked. So we've got Victor Osimhen at AC Milan. You've got Ebenezer Kinsimiro, one of my favorite players so far. We've talked about him on videos like this. You've got Daniel Daga as well. Of course, you have Uche Chrysanthus, an excellent player playing for Getafe. So that central midfield role is really, really, really stacked. But for me, I think Kinsimiro is someone who's a bit different. And then you have Uche Chrysanthus. I think those two, stand out for me. And the one place where I think Nigeria really lacks talent right now is that number 10 role. And that's why I'm really keen on Nigeria getting the likes of Ethan Nwaneri to play for the country, because when it comes to producing wingers, Nigeria, for days, strikers, lots and lots of strikers, fullbacks, lots and lots of fullbacks, central defenders, wingers, continually creating players at top level talent. But that 10 role, that midfielder, that creative midfielder that is, that plays behind the striker or plays behind two strikers, that can pick those passes, between the lines, that can rocket rifle a shot from outside the box that has, and that can match the tenacity that someone like an Ethan Nwaneri at his young age is matching up to. And that's why I think he should be got. And people keep talking about his age. Some people say he's young. Of course, he's young. That's true. But every now and again, when you see a player that's playing above his age, then you bring him into the national team. For instance, look at Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland was 18 or was he 19 and was already breaking records and was already part of the Norwegian senior national team. So if a player is so good, forget about the age. Look at what Lamine Yamal, very, very young, played in Euros for Spain. And I'm not saying every 17-year-old that is decent should automatically, play for the Nigerian Super Eagles. No. But every now and again, you see a super special talent, and especially when you don't have someone of that ilk, that has that skill set that player has. I've said the same thing about other countries like Scotland, how someone like Billy Gilmore was kept on the bench for so long, kept outside the national team for so long, and then you look at the squad. Actually, you say that you ask yourself, who in the Scottish national team was keeping Billy Gilmore out? For best of my opinion, except some Scottish fans would say different. To my mind, there was nobody that was actually keeping, Billy Gilmore out. Same thing with Ryan Gold. Who was the player at that time, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago that was keeping Ryan Gold out? For me, I couldn't see anyone. So the same thing, if you look at the Nigerian team right now, of course, Victor Osimhen, world-class superstar, striker. But look at that 10 row. Who can you point to say, yeah, this guy played in this 10 row, surely way, way better than Ethan Nwaneri. So Ethan Nwaneri, don't worry, you're still young. Let's let you develop and grow up and then have a chance to play. No, let's have a factual, straightforward conversation. So someone will drop something in the chat. So okay. So people don't have your own league in your country. It's always Chelsea, this Arsenal, that Atlanta, this Fulham, that. So, anyways, so for me, I think that's the thing that we should be looking at. Not just, this player is too young, or looking for excuses not to play a player or not to invite a player. Look at what he can contribute to the team. Look at his skill set. Match it up against the skill set that you have already in the team. If Ethan Nwaneri was just a pure winger, then you shouldn't be. I wouldn't be that much. I would have wanted him in the team. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't be so persistent with respect to getting him. Because you've got wingers, you've got your Ademola Lookmans, you've got your Samuel Chukwuezes, you've got Noah Stenberg. You have lots and lots of wingers already. So to me, that's something that should be looked at, trying to get him to play in the national team. And then there's one more thing that I want to talk about as well, and that is Rafiu Durosinmi. Rafiu Duronsinmi is someone that I have always liked, always rated, because I see him as a top talent. And, there are reports saying that probably he could be garnering or drawing the interest of certain Premier League clubs. So you've had Wolves, there's talk of Leicester City. For me, Leicester City, are they going to be a Premier League club? In the next, let's say, by come the end of the season? I don't really think so. I'm not quite sure. So for me, I think Rafiu Durosinmi should take his time and make the right move. I know some people say, you're coming to English football, just come to English football, doesn't matter. No, make the right move, because you make the wrong move, that's it for your career. Make the right move. For me, I think he will suit perfectly in the system, in a Newcastle side, in my opinion. If Isak will be sold, because that's how it seems, because you have teams like Arsenal lurking, you have teams like Chelsea probably lurking, but it still remains to be seen if people are actually going to meet that 120 million pounds sort of transfer fee that Newcastle have placed on his head. So for me, I think if someone like that leaves, Newcastle side, and I think he could do well there. And then Ipswich Town, though I know they're in a relegation dogfight right now and they may not survive, but if they survive, this relegation battle, I think he can thrive there as well, especially if Liam Delap leaves. And that's another thing you have to take into consideration. If you want to leave Victoria Pleasant, make sure where you're going to, study the team you're going to, look at the striker that's there. Not that the striker is better than you, but there are other social and cultural things that you should consider. Because if the striker is someone that's favored and you're just signing like you're your backup, then what's the point, even going there? So for me, he should be looking to go to clubs that he would actually play for, in my opinion. So for me, Rafiu Durosinmi is an absolute goal machine. I did a reaction video to some of his skills and goals that he scored. He's simply phenomenal. I know some people in the comments have said, "Oh, I want everybody to play for the Nigerian Super Eagles." Yes, I want everyone to play for the Nigerian Super Eagles for sure. I want everybody that is eligible, that is good enough to play for Nigerian Super Eagles. But of course, we know that you can only have maybe 23 or 26 tops players in your squad. That's fair enough. If you get all the top eligible players, all the top Nigerian players in the team, in the various positions, and you have the numbers maxed out, then that's fine. But for me, where I have issues is you have maybe just Lenny Kenna doing well, you have Rafiu Durosinmi doing well, and then we know that Victor Osimhen should be the top guy, and Victor Boniface following closely, Tobago following closely, and then you have maybe your Cyril Dessers as well following closely with the goals he's scoring. And then rather than inviting any of these ones, maybe invite Victor Osimhen and then you invite maybe Kelechi Iheanacho, or you invite some other striker that scored no goals this season. Of course, I wouldn't be happy with that. I would say, come on, you have Rafiu Durosinmi who is scoring goals, why not invite him instead? But if you have your Victor Osimhen already in there, you have your Victor Boniface already in there, Tula Arukudare already in there, Cyril Dessers already in there, Jordan Kenna already in there, then you can say, okay, that striking position is stacked. We need to think about other spots, other positions on the field as well. Not that we aren't going to win games just having strikers. They're going to field 11 strikers. So that's what I'm talking about. And also beyond just playing for, the Super Eagles right now for this World Cup qualifying games, right now at the AFCON, you should also start thinking about the future, about post 2026. You start thinking about post 2026 because post 2026, the next World Cup, Victor Osimhen will be past 30. Of course, Ekong will be past 30. So you have to start thinking right now, who will we get to fill in those spots? This is the time we need to get them in the building when we're not desperately in need of them. That's how you should do things. So you don't just abandon a player, he's scoring goals, coming up with assists week in, week out, and then you say, oh, no, I'm not going to invite you. No. I'll just invite my friend who's not doing anything at this club, who's sitting on the bench every match day, every match weekend, he's on the bench. I'll just pick him and invite him. No. So for me, Rafiu Durosinmi being excellent, being superb for Victoria Pleasant, and since he's come back from injury, he's been on fine form for them. And for me, I would like to see him move to the Premier League if that happens. But I would want him to make a very wise choice, smart choice. Don't just jump to any club and say, oh, this is a Premier League club. No. Are you going to get game time? Are you going to play? Who is the striker that's playing for them? You have to take that into consideration as well. And then speaking on young strikers eligible to play for Nigeria, you have Emmanuel Emega. He is eligible to play for Holland and to play for Nigeria. He currently plays for Strasbourg in the French Ligue 1. But you have reports that said he's been linked to a move to Chelsea, that he is one of the strikers on their radar. So including Victor Osimhen, including him, Sesko, Jonathan David, and Emmanuel Emega. So Emmanuel Emega, he may very well play for Holland, I don't know, but he's someone that's an exciting talent, paces, striker that can run in behind. And this is what I've been saying, that when it comes to strikers, when it comes to wingers, what they're talking about, talents just develop at the grassroots level, like your ERic Chelle, strikers, wingers, forward players. You have those ones. You have lots and lots of them coming out of the production line. And then as well, you talk about the ones that have dual nationality all over the world, like your Samuel Morodion, for instance, Spanish and Nigerian nationality. So strikers always produce strikers, whether you're talking about grassroots or ones that are born overseas. So wingers, fullbacks, central defenders always producing. The production line is always humming. But when it comes to that 10 spot, that 10 position, that number 10 role, that is where Nigeria really lacks. And then also when it comes to that unique central midfield role where you need a player to control play, that is another area where Nigeria lacks. And then, but fortunately this time around, you have Ebenezer Akinsimiro. He just had Nigerian nationality, and you can get him to play anytime for Nigeria. So he's right there. He's someone that should be integrated as well into the national team. And then some people say again, oh, are you going to have every central midfielder that is good in the team? If you have very good central midfielders, all of them excellent in the team, I won't complain if one or two miss out. But where I would complain, where you would see me complaining, is if you don't invite Uche Crisantos, if you don't invite Ebenezer Akinsimiro, and then who do you invite? You invite Al-Hassan Yusuf. I'm sorry. Someone in the comments, some days ago asked, what is my problem with Al-Hassan Yusuf? What has Al-Hassan Yusuf done to me? He has done nothing. I don't know this player. I don't know them personally. But I can only say from what I've seen, from the facts on the table, maybe he's played his fourth game now for the MLS, for the MLS club he's at. But as the last time we checked, before the World Qualifiers, he had just played 3 games. And meanwhile, you have someone like Uche Crisantos, who's been dominating, La Liga, which is top class midfield performance, top class performance for Getafe in the La Liga, and then you don't invite him. So what do you want people to say? What do you want people to say? For those of us who are Christians, or at least for those of us who've read the Bible, when Cain and Abel were meant to offer, sacrifices to God, Cain offered up, a poor sacrifice, and the Spirit of God said something to him. If you had done good, would I not, praise you and say you've done good? Same thing. If Al-Hassan Yusuf was on form, maybe he had left his Royal Antwerp and gone to another European club, or maybe even still at Royal Antwerp, but still dominating, numbers, tackles, won, ball distribution, playing so well, no one will complain. Someone can say, okay, he's older than the business against Miro, and he's actually playing very well. So, okay, we understand. But when the player isn't playing well, why would anyone say he should play ahead of, a player on form? And as Abu said, the coach knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing. We all have eyes. Of course, a coach has a tactical ability. He has the tactical know-how. He knows how he wants to use players. But when you have a number of players in a particular position, and you look at all of them, and you see the one who's underperforming, and the coach decides that that's the one he wants to invite, or the NFF decides that that's the one they want to invite, you have the right to question that decision, to say, come on, this guy isn't playing well. This other person that is playing in the same position is playing very well. So why wouldn't you have him in your team instead? So for me, those are the questions that I want people to answer. I want people to think about. So for me, I have nothing against any player. And then if you're just joining, I want to give a quick recap. For me, I've talked about Chelsea. Chelsea won, pushing themselves into the Champions League spot, at least so far this season. What are your thoughts on that one as well? And then what are your thoughts on Victor Osimhen? The goals he's been scoring for Galatasaray, the goals he's been scoring for Nigeria. He just scored for Galatasaray in their 2-1 win over Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce. He scored 2 goals, one from the penalty spot, and the other one was an absolute stunner. The first goal, in fact, was an absolute stunning strike by Victor Osimhen. So what do you think about him? How do you rate him? Are you one of those Nigerians who were down on him, after the AFCON? looking at him and say, oh no, he's not that good. For me, Victor Osimhen is that kind of striker that this is how I look at strikers. First, your primary function is scoring goals. Scoring goals. That's your primary function as a striker. But if the game is a bit tough, it's a bit tight, if you're not having the rub of the green, what else do you bring to your team? Do you just fade away and no one knows you exist? Or do you add something to your teammates, to your team? Do you contribute? And Victor Osimhen is one of those guys that if he's on form in front of goal, he will score lots of goals. But if he's having a bad day, if he's having a tough tournament, he will come up with high octane press, running, pinning down defenders, holding the ball into his chest, bringing his teammates, up the field, laying the ball off for them, assisting like he did for Ademola Lookman against Cameroon. If we remember that game correctly, he will run himself into the ground for his team and his teammates, like we saw in that Cameroon game as well. You see him lead the line, who win penalties, who make defenders' lives uncomfortable for them. And so these are the kind of things that you have with the Victor Osimhen. So when people were criticizing Victor Osimhen in the World Cup, the Nations Cup rather, in the last Nations Cup, they say, oh, Victor Osimhen, oh, this, that. I'm like, yes, I want him to score. I want him to score lots of goals. I want Victor Osimhen in that tournament to be, the top goal scorer in that tournament. But he brought other things to the table. And that's what you have with your Didier Drogba. Didier Drogba, some games, he wouldn't be getting the goals, but he would always bring top-class contribution to the team as well. And then you have your Diogo Costa, the same sort of striker. So Nigeria, we should count ourselves very lucky, that we have Victor Osimhen, in our ranks, someone that can actually score tons of goals, but also has that work ethic of, the lowest ranked player. He's the superstar. He's the number one superstar in the Nigerian Super Eagles team, but he has a work ethic of someone who's just making his debut. You see how he runs after every ball, chases every ball, how he contributes to his teammates, both for Nigeria, and for his club side. And now, one other thing that we talked about earlier on, so if you just joined, I want to know your thoughts and opinions about this as well, is this four-nation tournament that is called Unity Cup. So previously we thought it would be England, Nigeria, Ghana, and then Jamaica. But now what we're hearing is going to be Nigeria, Ghana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago. And the way the games are going to be played, it will be one-off. At least that's the information I've got so far. It's going to be one-off. It's going to be Nigeria against Ghana. Winner of that match stands out, waits. And then you have Jamaica versus Trinidad and Tobago. Winner of that match plays against the winner of Nigeria, Ghana. For me, I want to know what your thoughts and opinions are on that format. For me, the way I look at it, I feel they could have done it a lot better. It could have been better if you had a situation where at least you have Nigeria playing maybe a Trinidad and Tobago, Ghana play Jamaica, and then you then have a Nigeria play Jamaica, you have a Ghana play Trinidad and Tobago. So you could have like 3 or 4 games per teams, three games per team. And for me, that would have been more interesting for me because you have more games, to play. But then again, you could understand the logistical challenge of, putting this tournament, putting these fixtures together, having the teams to play, and knowing that you have World Cup qualifiers just not too long after that sort of tournament. So maybe you want to preserve your players. You don't really want to run them into the ground that much. So what are your thoughts and opinions on that tournament? Is it a useful tournament? Is it one that you want to see, the Nigerian Super Eagles participate in, or you just want them honed in, focus solely on the World Cup? Now, speaking on the World Cup, I think this tournament or friendly games can, sort of serve as something that could help, the Nigerian national team, sharpen themselves in terms of preparation for, the game versus Rwanda in Nigeria and the game versus South Africa at South Africa. Now, we're talking about the points deduction. We don't know what FIFA are saying about it. Some people are coming up with some strange sort of logic, saying the player should be fined. No, for me, the player shouldn't be fined. He didn't tackle anybody. He didn't bring anyone down. He didn't abuse anyone. He didn't do anything. He didn't try to injure anybody. The issue is, it is the country that should be punished. And how should they be punished? They should have their points deducted. Nigeria suffered the same fate. We have precedents. In 2018, Shehu Abdullahi, played a game he shouldn't have played, and then Nigeria got 3 points deducted from them. That should also happen. You have precedents. So for me, I don't understand all this about the player should be suspended. No, Lesotho, even if you're saying, and Lesotho saying they need 3 points, and that's the thing that we as Nigerians have to understand. If those 3 points are taken away from South Africa, they will primarily go to Lesotho, the team they played against. But where that then makes things a little bit better is that there will then be 2 points ahead of Nigeria, and then South Africa will then be 3 points ahead of Nigeria. So you win against Rwanda and South Africa, then the whole thing opens up. But for me, one thing I want to say, whether or not those points are deducted, the aim, the objective still remain the same, which is win every game. Go into every game and win every game. That's, for me, that has been the objective from day one, though we have seen draws where we should have won and seen losses where the team should have won as well. But for me, the objective still remains the same. Go into the tournament, rather go into the next set of World Cup qualifying fixtures with the mindset of winning, whether or not those 3 points are deducted from South Africa, and they should deduct those 3 points from South Africa. In fact, for me, if FIFA doesn't deduct those 3 points, I think Nigeria, for one, should take FIFA to the Court of Arbitration for Sports, because Nigeria has been on the end of that sort of decision. Broke the law then in terms of playing a player that was ineligible, got 3 points deducted from Nigeria. So in this circumstance as well, it happens in South Africa. We don't want to hear any issues, don't want to hear any stories. Have those 3 points deducted from them. Everyone should win fair and square. And that's why, for me, I said something about Maduka Okoye. I said, Maduka Okoye, yes, you were dropped from the squad, but I was happy. Why? I want the NFF to make sure that everything about his betting and all that stuff is cleared up. Because one thing you want to avoid is what should happen to South Africa is you have a player that's played for you, you get your 3 points, or you get the draw that should, get you over the hump, and then someone says, you see that player that was in your team that maybe didn't even contribute anything to your winning or getting that point, we need to take the points off you because he shouldn't have been playing. So that's, for me. I hope Maduka Okoye has cleared up, everything he had with his match fixing, this and that. I hope he's got it cleared up. And speaking on that Maduka Okoye sort of topic, I want to say this word of advice. Maybe it's an advice. I don't know if any young footballer watches this channel or subscribe to the channel. And that's this. The money you earn as a footballer is already enough. Think about how to invest it, how to save. Maybe save in the bank account or current account. You invest in IP, invest in real estate from legitimate real estate companies, and then your money will grow that way. Don't look to make, fast money from some sort of weird spots. Oh, got to bet on your game. No, because the risk outweighs the reward in that circumstance, in my opinion, at least. And now, there's something I want to also get your opinion on is there's this talk, I think we just came up 2 or 3 days ago, saying that ERic Chelle could, be quitting Nigeria. And then I looked at it, I said, come on, quit Nigeria? He just joined and he's been traveling, looking to convince certain players, like I've said, Ethan Nwaneri, to play for Nigeria, and other players as well, to commit to play for the Nigerian Super. How would he be quitting? Business Day, I think that's a Nigerian publication, came up with this thing where they said they have a source that said he is looking to quit because of the uncertainty around, his future, especially post the World Cup qualifying games. So he's looking to quit and all that. So for me, I don't think that should be an issue, because for me, I don't want him sacked. I don't. But like I always say, his decisions will lead to him being sacked or not. But look at Brazil, that sat in the fourth spot in South American qualifying, right? But due to the way they've been performing, due to how they've been playing, Dorival has been sacked. As Brazil's national team coach. So it's normal. If you don't meet certain benchmarks, you can be sacked. That is how football works. That's how it should work. Because for me, footballers, coaches, they earn so much money for them not to be held accountable. That's just it. So, but I don't think there's any truth to this. I'll just read the article here. So the ERic Chelle, a business day in Nigeria, said ERic Chelle reportedly set to quit as Super Eagles coach. When you read the article, you say Franco-Malian tactician ERic Chelle reportedly considering stepping down as head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria just 2 months after his appointment. The Nigerian Football Federation appointed Chelle to do that. Okay, according to Nigerian journalist Osasu Oboyuwana, the NFF is set to hold a crisis meeting to address the uncertainty surrounding, Chelle's future just months after his appointment. ERic Chelle is considering terminating his contract as Super Eagles manager. Sources within the NFF say that uncertainty over his fate beyond the FIFA World Cup qualifying series has led to a dramatic change of heart. The NFF will hold crisis talks to address the matter. Obayuwana stated as quoted by BSN Sports. The NFF officially dismisses exit rumors. However, the Punch reports the claims about Chelle's potential contract termination are false. There's nothing like that. An anonymous NFL board member told the Punch. So now for me, then again, sometimes you see some journalists, you see some news outlets, they want to glory hunt, they want to come up with that big breaking story, ERic Chelle set to quit. And then you read the article like I've just read, and he's not quite sure. They say someone anonymous says he wants to quit, and someone else says that there's nothing like that. That the fact of him quitting is a non-starter, it's a non-story. So for me, I don't see why he should be looking to quit. You should be focused on qualifying for the World Cup because that's your remit. Qualify for the World Cup. That's your remit, and then you have the AFCON as well. I know to some extent I have sympathy with ERic Chelle, which is he wasn't appointed on time. You allowed Jose Peseiro, and this is part of the dysfunction of the Nigerian Football Federation. Sometimes, you had you had Jose Peseiro. You probably knew a couple of days, or rather a couple of days to the final, the AFCON final. You possibly knew that Jose Peseiro wouldn't be your coach. He's not, as it wasn't any longer your man, to lead the Nigerian Super Eagles post the Nations Cup. But you left him there. You went on to World Cup qualifying games with him, and then your team dropped points. And then instead of learning your lesson, say, okay, Jose Peseiro, you're not quite our guy. We're going to drop you right now, and then we'll go on to get our main target. No, you didn't do that. You went to get a very inexperienced coach in Finidi George, and Finidi George came and mocked things up a bit more and soiled the kitchen a bit more with his tactics and how he set up play and how the team was playing. Having Paul Onuachu almost playing like a midfielder, sometimes leaving the 18-yard box, finding himself all the way in the spot where you normally expect to see a 6, and then had an injury to a striker, Victor Osimhen. Rather than invite a striker, you invited a midfielder instead. So and then you waited all these games to go by, and then you have an ERic Chelle now. You put so much pressure on him to get those points. Now, on the other side of things, where I say ERic Chelle, you have to be accountable for your own self, is how you set this team up is up to you. We know what Finidi did against South Africa, at home, and that's why they come on here and and start celebrating too much. So we know what Jose Peseiro did as well. So you know what you have to do. You're up against the wall, but how you set your team up is your responsibility. It's on you. playing Olaino at left back when you have Bruno Yemachi, one of Africa's best attacking left backs. You have him on your books. You left him on the bench. Play Olaino, who is one of the best right backs in the world. You play him at left back. Why? What were you looking to gain? So all that's on him. All that's on him. And Ademola Lookman in the Rwandan game, you saw him not really coming to terms with the position you had him play. And then you even had Simon Moses struggle so badly in the position he was playing. You could have taken him out, played Ademola Lookman there, and get a player from the bench into that midfield role, to help the team. But you didn't. And then going into the next game against Zimbabwe, one would have thought, okay, we'll give you a way out, we'll give you an excuse. That was your first game, just put the team together, and your first official game as the Super Eagles head coach. So probably you're trying to get to know your players, and then you still make the same mistake, set up the team the same way, going into the game versus Zimbabwe, and that cost Nigeria a lot. Now, people, when I talk about players, people say, "Oh, what do you have against this player?" I don't have anything against this player. In fact, these players that I talk about, if come the next World Cup qualifying games, they perform well, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say they perform well. I have no agenda, against any player. I want these players to do well. Wilfred Ndidi, not really. People will say he has experience. That's good. It's good to have experience. But really, 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 is it the player you want to play as a lone six? Now, let me give you an idea. Lone six, I'll call some players that have played in that lone six position. And let's see if Wilfred Ndidi's ability measures up to these players. Now, for those of you who are OGs, you remember Redondo used to play for Real Madrid, to play as a lone six. He had control, technique, skill on the ball. How about Busquets? Play for Barcelona, lone six, marshaled out that midfield, allowed the likes of Xavi, the likes of Iniesta, to go and join the likes of Messi and Eto'o up front. Then you have Rodri for Man City, lone six. He allows everyone to go and attack and play however they want to play. Now, those indeed match up with the ability they have. Now, let's come to our own Nigerian Super Eagles legend, Mikel Obi, lone six, control the game. Once he stands in front of the defense, you're not getting by. Once he holds the ball, you're not getting it off him. Does Wilfred Ndidi's ability match up to that? And then that's why I say when you have options like your Benita Kinsimiro that you could have in that team. So, and you had Uche Crisantos and you didn't bring him into the squad. So for me, all these now lie at the feet, on the desk of ERic Chelle. Now, we all know some things that happen in Nigerian football, and that's where I have issues with the NFF. Now, some of these players probably and possibly were invited by them, by the NFF. They insisted on, we are going to have this player. Alhassan Yusuf is going to be in this team. No matter what, we'll give you some that you want, but some other ones, we need them to be in the team. And then when the coach struggles, you now say, we want him gone because this player, because you couldn't qualify for a World Cup, because you couldn't go far in the AFCON, when you're insisting on certain players being in the team. For me, that just won't work. And I've said this before, it's high time the NFF, Nigerian Football Federation, become obsessed with winning. Forget about every other thing. Forget about the player I like. No. Would this player help us win? Because I'm sure NFF members, they are very intelligent. They are very smart. So think, would this player we're invited help us win? Would this player invited, will you help the Nigerian Super Eagles win? This player you're insisting on, this player must be in the team. This player must be in the team. Would he help the team win? Does he fit into the tactics of the coach? So these are things you begin to think about as well. And then one other thing that I also talked about on previously. So if you just join the stream, I want to know your thoughts and opinions on it as well. So Olubenga Bamidele says Ekong Ndidi Basi Iwobi can't get a strong team for Super Eagles. They are losing easily to teams in the league they are playing. Yeah. Now for me, Ekong, I get why Ekong plays, but he shouldn't be allowed to be unchallenged. Like he shouldn't be allowed to say, "Oh, he is the guy, our central defense, our captain. No one else can challenge his spot. He should, no one can challenge his spot. He should be the only one that plays in that central midfield position, in that central defense position. Then talking about, and that's why you have the likes of Igor Igor should be more. I know he just got his first call up, his first invite to the national team I was part of the World Cup qualifying squad, but he should be more in the team. And then Calvin Bassey. For me, Calvin Bassey, I think he's good. He's very strong. He's decent, especially when he pairs up with Ekong. But I just think Igor is better. And then Ndidi. When you're talking about Ndidi, for me, I always look at managers because one thing I believe in football is there are different ways to win a football match, different ways to set up your team. You can go 3-4-3, 5-3-2, 4-2-2-2, different ways to play, different ways to win. But when you pick a style of play, when you pick your tactics, how you want to play as a coach, you should make sure the players you then invite, the players you put in the squad, put in your starting lineup, match the tactics, match how you want to play, can actually execute what you want them to do. And then back to that issue of lone six. You're playing Wilfred Ndidi as a lone six. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because he cannot control the game. He cannot. It's sad, but it's true. He cannot control the game. Hold the ball, marshal it out, give it to this person. Go, you collect it, hold it, give it to the person, read the play. Who's the attacking player making the runs behind me? How do I check him? That's it. And that's what led to the goal. I know people blame Ekong for the goal, but primarily, Ndidi was at fault for that goal. He left the man who was meant to mark. He saw the Zimbabwean midfielder making that runs into the box, and he just let him go. So, as a certain players, it will be. Look at Iwobi. I keep saying this. People think I don't have anything against Iwobi. I do not. What I've said is Iwobi special enough not to press? I know he tried a bit in the game versus Zimbabwe. Is he special enough? That is, when he has the ball, can he just be absolutely magical? Like, can say, don't worry, you don't have to press. For instance, if you have a Messi in this team, you say, Messi, don't press. We don't want you to press. Just stand at the corner. Win the ball, we'll give to you. Because you know he can be magical on the ball. He can create something from nothing. He can glide past 4 or 5 players and score. But it will give you that sort of output. So I think the answer is no in that regard. So can you allow him have a luxury role in that midfield? People say pressing. Really, was it pressing? Was his pressing affecting anybody? You can be running about on the pitch, but you're not pressing anybody. That's one thing people don't get. You can see a player running, running up in the midfield, but you're not pressing anybody for sure. You're moving, you're running, but there's no your presence isn't putting pressure on the opposition team. So that's one thing you have to look at. And then I'll call his name again. I hope nobody gets offended. The video I watched about Ethan Nwaneri, and I'm sure in that reaction as well, some of you saw it. He's good on the ball, but he also does some people call it dirty work, some people call it grafting, some people call it the common man's work. He puts in the tackle, he puts that pressure. You can feel his presence there. He puts in the tackle, wins the ball, and creates on it. So it will be dribble. That's another question to answer. How many times have you seen Iwobi get the ball, glide past 1, 2, 3 players? Not really. I don't think I've seen him do that before. You get hold of the ball, glide past 2, 3 players, open up the play. No. And when a player can't do that or doesn't do that, you should expect that this player should be capable of putting that pressure. And like I said, the way this ERic Chelle wants to play, you don't want to carry any passengers in that midfield. You don't. In that attacking midfield, those three up front, you don't want to carry any passengers because one, if they lose the ball, it's straight up against the lone six. And lone six we have right now, Wilfred Ndidi. So those are things we have to, be looking at. You have to look at this. You have to take into consideration. And for me, like I said, going into this World Cup qualifying fixtures, whether or not South Africa have their points deducted, the goal still remains the same. Win every game. That's the goal. That's the only way the Nigerian Super Eagles, fortunately or unfortunately, can qualify for the World Cup. Win every game. Every game. The game against Rwanda, you win it. The game against South Africa, you win it. The game against Lesotho, all the games, you win. So that's the only way for me, in my opinion, in that regard. And then one other thing I talked about as well, for those of you who may just be joining, is I talked about Rafiu Durosinmi. Rafiu Durosinmi, has been linked to move to the Premier League, and two clubs that he has been linked to, we have Wolves and we have Leicester City. Now, for me, Leicester City is a no-no because the way I look at them, come the end of the season, they may end up being in the championship. They may end up being in the championship. So for me, that's a no-no, absolute no. Then for Wolves, Cunha might be leaving Wolves, but if he leaves, but despite the fact he's leaving, Strand Larsen will still be at Wolves. And one thing I want Nigerian players to do is not just to make a move because you make a move to the Premier League club. Now, you're making a move to the Premier League club because you're going to get the opportunity to play. Because if you're not playing, your stock will plummet. You want to have the opportunity to play. So for me, hopefully, whichever clubs he lands at, whether it's in the Premier League or not, he should go to a club where he play. And that is why I would prefer he goes to the German Bundesliga, especially Frankfurt. Frankfurt, they have a way they play. And I think it's part of their culture. They have a way they play, and they always play to the benefit of the striker. They always make their whole football geared towards that striker performing very well, towards that striker succeeding. Because I give you some names. You had Sebastian Haller, the Ivorian striker. He was there. He played so well for them. He got a big move to West Ham. You got Omar Mamouche, Egyptian striker. He played for them. He scored so many goals, and they moved this past January to Man City. Now you've got Hugo Ekitike, a French player. He plays for Frankfurt, and the way he's going right now, you probably any move to a top club. Maybe he will head to PSG, or he could head to the Premier League, or he could even head to the La Liga. So that's why I would prefer a Durosinmi going to Frankfurt first. So you go there and you make your name, bag your 20 plus goals, and then you can then get that big move. And any club that would sign him then will be signing him as someone, they respect because he's scored tons of goals and probably he would go for, a higher transfer fee and, of course, higher weekly wages than he would go for if he just leaves straight from Victoria Pleasant to the Premier League. That's my thoughts and opinions on that one. So I want to know what your thoughts and opinions are, on the various topics we talked about, on Rafiu Durosinmi, heading to the Premier League. And then one thing I want to talk about, and we had Ebereze. Ebereze could have played for Nigeria. He could have. It was so close. Look, some people don't know, but it was so close. He could have played for Nigeria. But the NFF, they model things up. and hopefully they don't model things up with Nwaneri, but they model things up, and he's playing for England, and he was been in fine form for at least in these past few games for Crystal Palace. So, and he's already he's part of the English national team, and I think Tuchel had him in his first squad. I think he would also have him in the next one as well. So he's been on excellent form. So that's Nigeria's loss, and hopefully you learn. And for me, that's one thing in life. You should be able to learn from your mistakes. It's one thing you make a mistake and you're not able to get a player in. You learn from that, know the mistakes you made, know what you did wrong, and then you're able to correct those mistakes, and you're able to convince the next player. Because let's look at all over the world. It's happening. It's happening. Look at Sierra Leone. Have a look at the under 20 squad. Have a look. Have a look at the under 20 squad. Look at what's happening there, because they are building themselves up, to a point where they can compete rather. Look at Morocco, forget about them. Look at how they are building their squad up. Look at Greece. Greece now, they understand that they have exciting talents all over Europe. They're now looking to get those players and integrate them into their senior team. Now, when I say Ethan Nwaneri play for Nigeria, say, oh, he's too young. There's a player right now that is the same age, maybe difference in days and months, but the same age as Ethan Nwaneri, is 17-year-old. He has Greek and Dutch and Belgian nationality, but Greece were able to convince him to play for them. And I'm sure one of the things that got him convinced was, you're going to play for the senior team. We're not going to send you to play for under 17 or under 18 or under 20. You play for the senior national team. That's it. And he scored on his debut. And he plays for Genk. So this excuse of too young, no. Think about winning. Also, look at your competition. Look at the teams you want to be like. Look at the teams you want to, hopefully, you face in the World Cup, that you face in the AFCON. Look at what they are doing. And ask yourself, can you measure up? Can you measure up to what these people are doing, to the level of competition, that you have around you? And speaking on the level of competition that we have around you, Nigeria has fallen, in the pecking order. Nigeria is now 43rd or thereabout in the world, and there are now 6. Nigerian Super Eagles are now 6th, in Africa. That's not acceptable. I don't know what you think about it. Let me know your thoughts about it. The Super Eagles now 6th in Africa. That is bad. That isn't good at all. That's not good. The likes of Morocco, the likes of Senegal are all ahead of Nigeria. In fact, Senegal, they're 19th, in the world. So they're ahead of Nigeria. So that's and for me, usually I have issues with the FIFA ranking because I feel it's a bit skewed to favor European teams. I do. And I think sometimes, even for the European teams, the FIFA ranking is just silly sometimes. But for me, I have no complaints right now for where Nigeria is, because you got to the AFCON final, good. Now, instead of building on AFCON finalists, you now find yourself drawing against Lesotho, losing to Benin, drawing to South Africa, drawing to Zimbabwe. So all these things affect you, affect you as a team, affect your ranking. And one thing that happens to when your ranking is affected, it affects the national team as a brand. And that's one thing I want any football administrator that may watch this video or that is watching this video. If your national team is ranked low, the kind of sponsorship you get, you won't get the money you're looking for. You will not get it. The caliber of sponsors you want to sponsor the national team, the kind of deals you want to sign, you will be unable to sign them because you won't have as much value in the eyes of sponsors, and corporate partners. Lubenga say if NFF can camp under 20 team for 2 to 3 weeks, they will be Super Eagles on a match day. Oh, well, I see your point there. I see your point, Benga. I see your point there. I think Tobagos are just so much better than the other 20. But one thing is being motivated to play that kind of game. That's one, and having the right players, playing the right players in the right positions. People don't understand this. When you say play this player in the right position, they say, is that why you can't score goals? No, it's not why you can't score goals. Sometimes it's the reason you can't create goals. Like in that Rwandan game, like in the Zimbabwe game, if Olaina was playing at a right back, he would have created 4 or 5 chances like the one he created for Osimhen to score. If Bruno Yemachi was playing at a left back, he would have created 2, 3 chances for Victor Osimhen and other strikers. So for me, the NFF, get your head out of the ground. Get your head out of the ground, because for me, it will be so bad if Nigeria misses out on another World Cup. That will be 3 World Cups in a row. 3 World Cups in a row. And what the World Cup is not an annual tournament. It's not like a league where you miss out this season, next season you have another chance, next season you have another go. You miss out on the World Cup, you have 4 more. You have to wait 4 more years. 4 more years, before you can think of competing again. So for me, I want to know what his opinion on the various news items I've talked about. ERic Chelle, they talk about him quitting. For me, I don't think he would quit. I just think that was a big title. So what do you think about it? Do you think it's even possible that he would quit? What do you think about the uncertainty around his contract? Because right now, we know the remit for him right now is to qualify for the World Cup. Do you think if he fails to qualify for the World Cup, he'll be given the opportunity, to still lead the Nigerian national team to the AFCON later on this year? What's your thoughts on that? Rafiu Durosinmi, what do you advise to him? Is it to remain in Victoria Pleasant, or make a move to the Premier League immediately, or maybe go to Germany or France, maybe sign for Lyon and get some game time and notoriety under his belt? And then what do you also think about this 4-nation invitational tournament? Is it something that you want to watch, or you want to see? Do you think Nigeria should be playing in that tournament, or should be more focused on preparing themselves, maybe in-house training and in-house friendly matches to play in those to get themselves ready for the World Cup qualifiers? What do you think about that? And then now, I'll just say one thing about this, and then I'll run through the other topics and we'll end the stream. Now, for me, this sort of invitational tournaments should open our eyes to see that there are lots of tournaments that there's an opportunity for more footballing tournaments that countries can make, that teams can, that countries can put together, that companies can put together, that would make football enjoyable, especially, when you have a World Cup here, you have people wanting to watch more football. You can have some type of alternative programming. When the World Cup first half has ended, and then you have the first half of this other tournament started, with more teams, maybe 15, 20 teams. That's something to just, think about. And then for those of you who are Premier League fans, maybe Chelsea fans, what do you think about the top 4 race? What do you think about Chelsea winning, yesterday against Spurs? Has that marked them turning the corner? For me, I've said about Maresca, one thing is sure, is someone has definitely called him into the principal's office and said, listen, Mr. Maresca, if you don't qualify for the Champions League, you will be gone. So that's why he sort of changed the way he's played. And so far so good. He's gotten some good results. Got him, I think, back-to-back wins at home in Leicester City, and got his win again, against Spurs. And they're going to play an away game against Brentford. And so let's see how that goes if the progress continues. So for me, thank to everyone who has come on to watch this stream, come on to watch me talk, and those of you who have given your opinion. Benga Bamidele, thank you so much. You're always a contributor on here, even Balance as well, riding high on this South African national team, topping the group, coming to drop his comments here. So I appreciate you as well. I appreciate every comment on here, though I disagree with some of your takes, but that's fine. That's what football should be. Have your opinion, I have my opinion. We have nice, healthy, respectful debates about them, opinionate about them, exchange opinions. That's completely fine. So at this point, we've come to the end of this video. Please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. Share the video as well to as many people that you think will be interested, in this type of content, and that would really be amazing. Like I said, this channel continues to grow, and one aim I have is to make this the biggest footballing community on YouTube that will do good in the lives of people. Gradually, we're getting there, and we'll begin to cause change pretty soon. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Then for those who have subscribed already, we'll click the notification bell, we'll share this video. And like I said, do have a splendid rest of your day. You're heading towards the weekend. Try to get some rest, relax, spend time with your family, and enjoy your weekend. And I'll see you on yet another video. Stay well, but stay blessed. Bye-bye.